She was 2 years old. She had dark curly hair and a smile that filled every room she walked into. She loved to dance. She loved her grandparents. She was just weeks away from turning 3. On June 16th, 2008, she was last seen alive leaving her grandparents' home in Orlando, Florida. A month passed before anyone called the police. Her name was Caylee Anthony, and what happened to her and what happened after changed the way America talks about justice. My name is Savannah Cole, and this is what they left behind. I want to be honest with you about something before we begin. You probably already know this case. You may have watched the trial live. You may have strong opinions about the verdict. You may have opinions about Caylee Anthony that have not changed in 15 years. I'm not here to tell you what to think about Caylee Anthony. I'm here to tell you about Caylee, because in the years since this case ended, in all the documentaries and podcasts and think pieces and true crime content, Caylee Marie Anthony has sometimes gotten lost in the noise of her own story. She was a real child. She had a whole life ahead of her. She deserved to grow up. This episode is for her. My name is Savannah Cole, and this is what they left behind. Caylee Marie Anthony was born on August 9th, 2005, in Orlando, Florida. Her mother was Caylee Anthony, who was 19 years old when Caylee was born. The identity of Caylee's father was never publicly established. Caylee grew up in the home of her maternal grandparents, George and Cindy Anthony, in a quiet Orlando neighborhood. George was a former police officer. Cindy was a nurse. They were devoted to their granddaughter in a way that was apparent to everyone around them. Caylee was the kind of child people notice. She was bright and curious and full of energy. She had dark curly hair that she wore in pigtails. She loved music and dancing. She loved swimming in her grandparents' backyard pool. She was just beginning to talk in full sentences, just beginning to understand the world around her, just beginning the long, beautiful process of becoming whoever she was going to be. Her 3rd birthday was August 9th, 2008. She never made it there. On June 16th, 2008, Caylee Anthony left her parents' home with her daughter, Caylee. She told her parents she was going to stay with friends, including a new boyfriend. It was the last time George and Cindy Anthony saw their granddaughter alive for the next 31 days. Caylee Anthony did not bring Caylee home. She did not call to check in. She did not tell her parents where Caylee was. What she did do was go to nightclubs. She went to parties. She stayed with her boyfriend. She had a good time. And on June 20th, 2008, 4 days after Caylee was last seen alive, Caylee Anthony got a tattoo on her left shoulder. The tattoo said, "Bella Vita, Beautiful Life." On July 15th, 2008, Cindy Anthony called 911. She told the dispatcher that her granddaughter had been missing for a month and that Caylee's car smelled like there had been a dead body in it. When police arrived, Caylee Anthony told them that a babysitter named Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez had taken Caylee, that she had been searching for her daughter on her own for the past month, that she was afraid to tell anyone. Police quickly determined that the babysitter did not exist. The story Caylee Anthony told was a lie. What the truth was would take years to argue in court and has never been fully settled. From the moment investigators began looking at Caylee Anthony, they found things that did not fit the story she was telling. The first was the car. Caylee's Pontiac Sunfire had been abandoned at an Amscott Financial Center in mid-June. When her father George retrieved it, he immediately noticed the smell. He later described it as the smell of human decomposition. Cindy Anthony told the 911 dispatcher the same thing. A cadaver dog trained to detect the scent of human remains alerted to the trunk of the car. Forensic testing found traces of chloroform in the trunk at extremely high levels. Investigators also found computer searches on the Anthony family computer for chloroform, for how to make chloroform, and for neck breaking. Those searches were made in the weeks before Caylee disappeared. On December 11, 2008, 5 months after Caylee was last seen alive, a meter reader named Roy Crunk discovered skeletal remains in a wooded area less than a third of a mile from the Anthony family home. The remains were identified as Caylee Anthony. She was still in her pajamas. Forensic investigators found duct tape near her skull, in a position consistent with having covered her nose and mouth. The manner of death was ruled a homicide by undetermined means. Caylee Anthony was charged with first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, aggravated manslaughter, and 4 counts of lying to law enforcement. Caylee Anthony's trial began on May 9, 2011 in Orlando, Florida. It lasted 6 weeks, and it was watched by millions of people across the country. The prosecution argued that Caylee Anthony had used chloroform to render Caylee unconscious and then suffocated her with duct tape. They said she killed her daughter to free herself from the responsibilities of motherhood, to live the beautiful life she had tattooed on her shoulder. 4 days after Caylee was last seen alive, the defense told a completely different story. Caylee's attorney, Jose Baez, argued that Caylee had accidentally drowned in the family swimming pool on June 16th, and that George Anthony had discovered the body and staged the scene to cover up what had happened. The defense painted Caylee as a victim of sexual abuse by her father, a claim George Anthony denied entirely. The prosecution pointed to the chloroform searches, the cadaver dog evidence, the duct tape, the smell of decomposition in the trunk, the 31 days of partying while her daughter was allegedly missing. The defense pointed to what they said was reasonable doubt. No cause of death had been officially established. The evidence was circumstantial. The prosecution's theory was possible but not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The jury deliberated for less than 11 hours. On July 5, 2011, Caylee Anthony was found not guilty of first-degree murder, not guilty of aggravated child abuse, not guilty of aggravated manslaughter. She was convicted only of 4 counts of lying to law enforcement. She was released days later for time served. The country reacted with outrage. In the years since her acquittal, Caylee Anthony has told several different versions of what happened to her daughter. She maintained at trial that Caylee drowned accidentally in the pool and that her father staged the scene. In a 2022 documentary, she placed blame on her father George for the death and his cover-up. She accused him of sexual abuse that she said had shaped her inability to tell the truth. George Anthony denied every allegation. The jury that acquitted Caylee Anthony said they based their decision on the lack of a proven cause of death and the absence of direct evidence connecting Caylee to Caylee's death. They said the prosecution had not proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. Millions of Americans did not accept that answer. They still don't. The question of what happened to Caylee Anthony on or around June 16, 2008, has never been officially answered. The case is technically closed. The verdict is final. But the question remains open in the minds of nearly everyone who followed it. And then there is the question of accountability, because 2 of the 4 lying to law enforcement convictions against Caylee Anthony were later thrown out by an appeals court. She has faced almost no legal consequence for the death of her daughter, Caylee Marie. Anthony was 2 years old. She was born on August 9, 2005, in Orlando, Florida. She had dark curly hair and a smile that her grandparents, George and Cindy, have described in interviews as the kind that lit up every room she entered. She loved to dance. She loved to swim. She loved her grandfather. She loved being read to at bedtime. She was just beginning to understand the world, just beginning to develop the personality she would carry through a life she never got to live. She deserved to turn 3. She deserved to go to school, to make friends, to grow up and become whoever she was going to be. A jury said not guilty, but Caylee Anthony is still gone, and no verdict changes that. Remember her name. This has been What They Left Behind. I'm Savannah Cole. Some verdicts settle the legal question, but leave the human one open forever. This is one of those cases. I'll see you next Sunday.